On this week's episode, I'm joined by Joanna Moscoso and Afonso Bento. Joanna and Afonso are both born and raised in Portugal and work for Native Scientist, a social enterprise founded by Joanna that connects scientists with children across Europe to reduce inequalities, promote quality education, and celebrate diversity. We discuss, amongst other things, living a balanced life, being a scientist in Portugal, staircases, winning a UNESCO Prize, what makes them proud of Portugal, and the amazing work they are doing with Native Scientists. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life. And I'm delighted to be joined by two mad scientists and some UNESCO Prize winners. No big deal. Joanna Moscoso and Afonso Bento. Joanna and Afonso, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
It's my pleasure, yeah.
How are you today? Good. Monday morning.
It could be worse.
Yeah, that's a good way. So, maybe you two can just start off by telling us a little bit about yourselves. Joanna, ladies first. Tell us a bit about you.
Yes. So, I'm Joanna. I come from the north of Portugal. I like to see myself as a balanced person, curious person, and quite ambitious as well. I'm a scientist and also social entrepreneur. I've had an international career so far, although I now relocated back to Portugal. I'm a mom of a 2-year-old girl, and yeah, that's me.
Afonso, what about you?
Yeah, so I think I also lead a balanced life. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, so I'm finishing my PhD now in social anthropology, and I'm currently I joined Native Scientists like 5 months ago, I think 6 probably. So I'm transitioning from academia to a more managerial role within science outreach. And I live in Lisbon, and basically that's it. You'll get to know me throughout this podcast.
Exactly. We're gonna cover a lot of ground here, but two things that just came up right now in what you guys were talking about. One, you both spoke about sort of balance, living a balanced life. This is something that comes up a lot in the podcast, that somehow in Portugal we manage to be ambitious and groundbreaking and do all these interesting things, but we still have balance. How's that experience for you, and what would you say about that idea?
Well, I think that's probably true for many people, but for instance, I don't know, Joanna has had a more international science career than me, but I can speak about a little bit about being a scientist in Portugal, and it tends not to be so balanced.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of pressure and competition for grant money and overwork. But if you, I think Portugal Portugal is a beautiful place, and it can be a source of a balanced life. It depends on who you're talking to, I guess. That's my view on it.
What about for you, Joanna?
Yes, I think, this balanced life depends. It comes a lot from within rather from the outside, right? There are these two different pressures, things from the outside that influence how you feel and behave, and pressures from the inside that also influence how you respond to things. And I think I've learned throughout my life to value this balanced life, and that's why I live a balanced life nowadays, because I have made mistakes in the past, right? I've some of the highest highs has been like winning the UNESCO Prize, but some of the lowest lows has been, to overcome depression or burnout, because these things, it's not just about the surroundings and how they allow you to have a balanced life. It's also a lot about how you feel and how you respond to the things that happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah, the opportunity to have a balanced life is around us. It's how we take that opportunity or not, or see those things that can bring balance. Another thing I wanted to ask, because there's again a theme that's come up in a lot of conversations I had with in the podcast with my Portuguese guests, is the difference between people from the north and people from the south. You guys have been working together for 5 months. I mean, how's that going? Do you see a difference in the way you work and the way you communicate? Joanna being from the north. I mean, where you're from, Joanna, where you grew up, you couldn't go any further north without going into Spain, right?
Correct.
And Afonso from Coimbra, so somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But do you see a difference in that in your working relationship?
No, actually, no, I don't. It's funny because when I was abroad, the Portuguese people that I was meeting joked a lot about the way I was speaking because I have an accent from the north. But now that I relocated back to Portugal, that dissipated quite a lot. So people don't react as much to my pronunciation as they would do when I was abroad. But I also got, I had time to reflect both on my Portuguese accent when I speak in English and on my Portuguese accent when I speak in Portuguese. And when I was younger, I felt really conscious about it. And I just wished I didn't have these pronunciations that told people who I were. Currently, I actually accept it as a good thing, They tell a lot about us. They tell our story as well.
Yeah.
And actually, Coimbra has a really interesting. People from Coimbra have a very interesting outlook on this. That is, we grow up thinking we don't have any accent, not even a Portuguese accent, because Coimbra supposedly is the place in Portugal where you speak the correct Portuguese.
Because it's academic, right? It's like the academic center of Portugal kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a kind of a projection thing, but only when I left Coimbra that I really started thinking about what an accent means and and the kinds of and the type of accent that I had. But it's interesting that I think when working with Portuguese people, I think that was your original question. I think when you're abroad, you feel a keen sense of diaspora within Portuguese, and I think that's the most not remarkable thing, but thing that stands out. That is, Portuguese people really seek out each other and really reinforce that sense of diaspora when working abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I appreciate about this country is there is this sort of provincialism. There are people that are proud of their part of the country, but it's usually really about food, or maybe football, or maybe about an accent, like you said, or whatever. But there's never this. But we're all still Portuguese, and that's. You guys should be grateful. I mean, I'm apparently everyone tells me that when I speak Portuguese, I sound Ukrainian. So there's an accent for you. There's it's tough. It's tough. I can't walk into a restaurant and people already know that I'm not Portuguese, even though I am. So it's tough. It's tough. Afonso, as an academic, is it the oldest university in the world, or in Europe? Coimbra, is it? Because this is the big debate.
I don't think so. I think it's one of the oldest. But yeah, maybe I'm not the most objective commentator on this, I think, but probably it's one of the oldest. I think the oldest is Bologna, I think, in Italy. I guess, but Coimbra is a town that really centers its identity around the antiquity of its university. That's really true.
Yeah.
For the in a bad way and in a good way.
Yeah, it's good and bad for everything, for sure. So, Joanna, tell us a little bit about Braga. What do you want people to know about Braga, and maybe also what you want people to know about the north? It's a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, I'm a strong promoter of Valença, my hometown. This is where I grew up.
So it's not to be confused with Valencia. It's Valença.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Valencia is in Spain. Valença.
Exactly. Spain is not Portugal. People listening, especially you Americans, Spain is not Portugal. Okay, gotcha.
And I describe Valença as a village, although in the paper it's a city, but it lacks a lot of things that you typically associate with a city. So I do describe it as a village. And I'm a strong promoter because it's beautiful. It's between green mountains by the river. It has a medieval fortress that it's one of the best preserved fortress in Portugal.
Really?
And also very big one. So it's beautiful. And yeah, the landscape there is just something else, you know. And then Braga is the city I chose to live at the moment and to settle my family, at least for these first years as we had a baby and so on. Now, it's a very religious city. It's one of the cities in Europe with more churches per square meter.
Really?
Yes, because
Braga.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It was once the capital of, you know, the Catholic Church. Like many years ago, but I'm not very strong with history, so don't ask me for details. So it stands out that there are a lot of churches, and the city. It's very common that you walk in the city and you see nuns and priests because there's a big concentration of them here. And besides that, it's also very future looking and modern in a way, because it has a very cutting edge university. It has one of the world's best laboratories for nanotechnology. It's very multicultural, and it's also one of the cities in Europe with more youth. So it's very vibrant and very cultural as well.
Yeah. Have you climbed the stairs, the Bom Jesus stairs?
Yes. Actually, even when you're 9 months pregnant and you want your baby to get out of you, you should go and climb up the more than, I don't know, hundreds of stairs, because it helps with, you know, putting the baby out there.
Better than Indian food. Okay. Yeah.
Do you think it's more stairs, the Monumentais in Coimbra or the Bom Jesus? You know, the steps that go through the university in Coimbra, you have also, you know, this Joanna, right?
Do you know how many there are, Afonso?
I don't know. I'm really speculating, but I mean,
I think Bom Jesus got 250 something. I think 253, if I remember correctly. Are you Googling
I just Googled it.
Okay.
It's 577 steps.
Bom Jesus.
Bom Jesus.
Okay, so and then what about Coimbra? Let's see. We're having a battle of the stairs.
Battle of the stairs, exactly. Oh, well, how many Bom Jesus?
577.
I'm not gonna say it because I'm gonna embarrass my hometown.
Okay.
How many? How many? How many? Come on.
Dylan, don't force me to. No, it's 125, so it's
Not
much.
even close. Not even close.
Braga really gets
Oh,
away with it.
all right. Okay.
We need to, in the onboarding plan for native scientists, we need to include climbing the steps of Bom Jesus. So
Yeah,
then everyone can count by themselves the number of steps.
yeah.
Good idea.
I'm all for it.
Good idea. Good idea. It's good exercise for your people, you know. So it's
Yes, also promoting a balanced life.
balance. Exactly. 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 Um, well, I mean, for both of you, how did you both get into the field of work you're in? Afonso, maybe you can go first and tell us a little bit about how you got into your field.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess you're asking about my academic field or my work with native scientists.
We'll get into native scientists, but sort of how you got into science. You as an
Yeah.
individual, how you got to that point.
Um, so yeah, actually it's pretty it's not curious, but it's when I finished high school, I really did not I was clueless regarding what path should I take in my life, and I really didn't like school. I really didn't like school. And
But you
but yeah.
became an academic in the end.
Yeah, and then I wanted to go into philosophy. I remember this, and then I talked to several people who convinced me that maybe sociology was the best, and I entered university and really liked it. Um, I really liked it. It's a field of study that's very different from Joanna. Um, so it's part of the social sciences. And it really fascinated me the kind of look it can help to bear in our own behavior, to everything around you. It helps you kind of detach yourself from the everydayness of things and have a new look on life. It's like, I really like a metaphor. I really don't remember who said this first, but sociology or social anthropology, it's like a fish trying to understand the water it swims in. So yeah. And yeah, I've been fascinated with it kind of look with it since. Um, and then yeah, and throughout my academic career, I've always been fascinated with science outreach, because when you're in academia, you sometimes get caught up in working only for scientists and for the approval of scientists, which is good and it's necessary, because science is a very effective way of validating knowledge, and so that's important. But sometimes scientists can be trapped within quotes inside academia, and I guess we'll talk about this later. But for me, native scientists is a way of escaping that and giving new meaning to the knowledge that it is inside academia.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, we'll come to native sciences. But Joanna, how did you
Yeah.
get into this work?
Well, contrary to Afonso, I loved school. And it all starts when I was 9 years old, because I learned at school that there were these living organisms that we cannot see called bacteria all around us. And to learn at the age of 9 that there was a living world around me that I couldn't see just blew my mind. It's like I'm never alone, actually. I'm always, have these companions with me that I cannot even see. And so my fascination was so real that I decided back then when I was 9 that I wanted to become a scientist. But then there was a problem, because coming from a rural place with no access to science or higher education, the reactions from the people around me when I was telling them that I wanted to become a scientist were, "What? You're crazy. Don't do that. Go be something else, a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, whatever." And just because it was very strange for them, and for me to wanting to become a scientist. And you hear these reactions throughout your growth, like when you're 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Eventually at 17, you need to decide what you want to study at university. And somehow, despite all the disencouragement, I did decide to study biology and become a scientist so that I could look into these bacteria and study them. And so I became a microbiologist. And when I felt a scientist for the first time in my life, this happened throughout my PhD at Imperial College London. Once that happened, I really felt an urge to go to schools and talk about my work to children so that I could break the barrier that I felt as a child for them. And so this is how I then start to juggle a career in science, but also as a social entrepreneur in the science communication field, enabling scientists, as much scientists as I could, to go to schools to talk about their work to children, with this goal of making science feel relevant to them and making science feel close to them. And, if you want to go even deeper, making them understand that if they want to, they can become scientists as well.
So making it feel more accessible to anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's how Native Scientists started.
Exactly.
So tell us what it is. Tell us what Native Scientist is for people that don't know.
Yeah. So I co-founded Native Scientist with Tatiana, another scientist, also at that time living in London. And basically what we do is to connect children, especially children from underserved backgrounds, with scientists, with the goal to broaden their horizons and promote scientific literacy, as well as reducing inequalities in the world. That's basically it.
Amazing. As a mom, I mean, how important is this work to you now that you've, for me, I'm also a dad of 3, and the way you see the world changes when you have kids, and how important is it to you now as a mom of 2 that this work keeps growing and keeps developing?
Yeah. Well, I see it even more relevant because now it has a special meaning that we develop these educational programs that are quite out of the box, because they take to the school setting scientists, which are usually you don't bump into a scientist on the street, and so I see it in a more special way, because I also want my child to have access to the opportunity of interacting with scientists and understand that science is everywhere and all around her. But I also became much more aware of the inequalities that there are, when people organize the events, the way sometimes they promote those events or disseminate the events, they don't reach everyone. Even sometimes, I'm interested, so I'm looking for opportunities, and still sometimes I miss them, that for, a variety of reasons. And yeah, I see the inequality not only in accessing science, but also inequality just when people have certain struggles or something that is different from the majority, things are just not catered for them, right? My kid is multi-allergic. She's allergic to 3 different things. So basically, she cannot go into a restaurant who has pizzas, a bakery, or so on, because one of the things she's allergic to is gluten. She's also allergic to egg, and she's also allergic to milk proteins. And, this completely changed our life. And it really showed us how the world does not prepare for the difference out there. And yeah, so it improved my sense of awareness of the importance of the work we do, but it also improved the sense of awareness on how unconsciously we do not cater for diversity.
And so why do you do this work?
Well, I really want to underscore what Joanna said. I think it was very elegantly put. We do not cater to diversity. And I think that native scientists uses science outreach not just as a way of disseminating science achievements, if you will, or science knowledge or data, but in a way that it mobilizes science to help address some inequalities. Of course, we do not have the scope that will solve inequalities, but I think that it has a very it addresses key points in a very innovative way. So I said before that when I was in academia, I thought that it was important to reach out of academia, and this can be done in a number of ways. But I first applied to native scientists because I thought because their approach really resonated with me. So one thing that Joanna didn't delve into deeply was the idea that native scientists always communicate science from the perspective of a shared background between scientists and the students. So in the case of the program I help manage, that is called Native Schools, we bring together scientists and students from a shared from the same migrant community. So that let's imagine a Portuguese scientist that's in the UK will talk to students that are from Portuguese sons of Portuguese immigrants or are immigrants themselves, and will communicate science from the point of view of that shared heritage. And so what you end up doing is valuing science, valuing a common heritage, making a kid really understand and valuing and seeing it in a positive light, and valuing their language. But we know that sometimes abroad, migrant communities, in order to fit in their new countries, try to suppress their heritage and do not see them as a value, as a tool that can help them in their life. So I really I'm wholeheartedly inside and support the Native Scientist Project because it's so, first of all, it has its values in the right place and completely aligned with mine, but also because it has a very innovative way of addressing certain issues.
So yeah, go ahead.
Just adding on that indeed, we like to design our programs in a way that fosters sense of belonging. And that's why in the program that Afonso manages, we bring together children and scientists from the same migrant community. And in the other program that we have, we take scientists back to their own primary school the class where they learn the ABC and the 1 + 1 is 2. So the idea of our programs is always to work with this sense of belonging and promoting a healthy sense of identity, and then also taking science where science is not readily available, or there is less access to science.
So how does this practically work? So let's say I'm a South African guy living in Portugal, and I have a half South African child. And I mean, I'm just using a hypothetical example, but I mean, how would I get my child involved in the native scientist or the native classroom?
Yeah. We usually work with the children through the schools.
Okay.
So what we would do is we identified the school as a school that has lots of diversity, and then we would gather together all the kids with the same heritage. So like maybe your kid has South African background, but there are a few other kids that also have a South African background. So we would get them together in a class outside the normal working hours of the school.
Okay.
And then we would identify South African scientists in Portugal and prepare a team of 4 scientists that would go and speak. Yes.
Okay.
They would go and meet these children. We would divide the children in 4 groups. And then the science, it's a little bit like speed dating. And it's also a bit like science tapas. So all the kids interact with the 4 scientists, and they taste different flavors of science as they speak with each scientist. And so it's a workshop that usually lasts for an hour and a half. Very interactive. The scientist always brings something that the kids can touch, smell, try something. And it's really to spark the interest for science, and so that they see people like them that are scientists. People that look like me are scientists, and if I want to, I can become a scientist.
Amazing. So this is a physical thing. This is not online. This is not Zoom meetings. This is arranging people to meet the children where they are.
Yes. Although, of course, during the pandemic, we adapted to the online version.
But it's not the same. It's not the same.
But it's not the same. But the adaptations we've made still concluded that it worked. Like we are scientists, so we care a lot about evaluating the impact, and so we're a bit obsessed with it actually. And so we also measured, of course, in a not very deep way, but we measured if we could get the same outcome, and the outcomes were there. So in the lack of the possibility of doing it in person, online is a substitution.
Yeah. So this is a combination of getting kids interested in science, which is a challenge on its own, because I will say science was not my thing at school. I battled, but I did enjoy social science. So at least Afonso and I at least can connect there. But also on a humanitarian level is getting them not to be embarrassed about their heritage, not to be embarrassed about their culture, and to connect with successful people that are from their background. This is huge. So maybe you guys aren't mad scientists, maybe just caring scientists. It's a different.
I think it's interesting. We kind of try to dispel the notion of mad scientists. We try to present them as or to present ourselves as normal people.
Yeah.
And and that's why there is another component to the program that is really important, that is representational, that you touched upon. It's like kids are seeing someone from their same background doing something that they never thought someone from their background, that they never seen someone from their background do.
Yeah.
So they feel represented and in a whole new field. So it's but maybe they're mad scientists, but mad scientists from the same background. Let's say.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
Like
but it means that they can feel good about who they are and not feel like a minority. You know, I've seen this in a lot of countries. I mean, if you just want to talk about the Portuguese, just the Portuguese alone, in certain countries they're made to feel less, and they're not. And for a child, this is a beautiful thing that they can see somebody from their background succeeding and being confident and happy, and it gives them hope.
Yes, we have testimonials from girls and boys that actually said something like, this workshop was very important for me because I didn't know people like me could go into university, implying that university was just for the natives, you know, because sometimes there are, of course, lots of different types of migration, right? Some people migrate just because there's a better job opportunity and they are already coming from a socioeconomic status that allows them to have access to certain things. But unfortunately, the majority of migration is still linked with people searching for safety and security, and people searching for better living conditions, you know, improved quality of life. And so this is the majority of migration, actually, although we might not be aware of it on our day-to-day. And it's important for these people to feel that they belong, because it all starts with feeling that you belong to a place.
Yeah.
And also,
I mean, it's your job's gonna get. You're gonna have more and more work to do as the years go on, because this is becoming a thing in the world today. People are moving all the time, looking for safety, looking for a better quality of life, looking for peace. Not just coming to Portugal, but going to other places. And this is going to be I think there's going to be something interesting for a lot of different, a model for a lot of different things. So it's really exciting, and congratulations on a really, really beautiful initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations, because you're UNESCO Prize winners as well. So how did that all come about? I know Afonso was involved in that quite substantially. So Afonso, maybe you can just tell us how that went.
Well, I can tell you, but I'm really not the one that should be how do you say credited with this achievement, because it's as I said, I joined Native Scientist 6 months ago, and I think it's an achievement for what Native Scientist has been accomplishing for at least 10 years. Is it, Joanna?
It will be in June, 10 years, yes.
So I guess I just played a very small part in that achievement, and I would defer to Joanna on this.
Yes, okay. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's hard to believe, you know. And when I received the call, where this person was telling me that we got the award, you know, I just felt these butterflies in my stomach, and I had goosebumps, and I felt a little bit like winning the Nobel Prize, you know. It's like, this is so big. And you know, we did prepare an application, submit an application, and it was actually the second submission that we had prepared. 3 years ago, we also applied. It's one of those things that you submit, the chances for success are very, 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 very tiny. But you submit it because you are aware.
How many applications are there? How many applications are there? Do you know?
It varies every year because they change things for every year. At the end, when we received the prize, because it's such a specific topic, I realized that it's not that. I mean, we've been to more competitive contests. They received 91 applications. So, we've been to harder competitions. But it's also just because we really fit into the criteria that they value, and the criteria are very aligned with what we do with the migrant communities. And so it's still an area that needs development. There's, more innovative approaches can appear in this field because there's so much to explore. And yes, it's an honor to receive this, but it's also a reflection on the community we have.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I was about to say. It's important to, besides what Joanna was saying, recognize that native scientists, this scientist runs on a huge network of volunteer scientists. And this community is what help us achieve what we have achieved. And I think in this regarding the UNESCO Prize, I think, for instance, Rafael de Lupa played a huge part. And so it's important to recognize that it's not only the core team, as we call it, but native scientists is also a huge network of scientists that contribute to these kinds of achievements.
How many volunteer scientists do you have? And from how many different countries?
I think right now we are over 3,000 scientists in 9 different countries, European countries. So we are a pan-European organization. And yeah, as I said, and we established over 20,000 connections between scientists and children from Europe.
Through these workshops, and then obviously you doing online during the pandemic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
amazing. It's awesome.
It is, but it's the power of people and it's a project that really mirrors scientists' values, and that's why it keeps growing. And one important aspect is also that we're going to celebrate 10 years in June, but until last year, so for 8 years and a half, Native Scientists was 100% run on a voluntary basis. So while my brother was kite surfing in the coast of Portugal, I was, managing a pan-European non-profit organization as a hobby. And only last year, I decided to dedicate full time to Native Scientists and kind of promote the professionalization of the organization, let's put it this way, in such a way where we start to have some paid staff and also have some more standardized procedures for being able to scale our programs. And we also started this very new thing of fundraising, and we added the donate button on our website, which was very exciting for us, but also very out of our comfort zone. And so, yes, now we are in this process of turning Native Scientists into a sustainable organization at all aspects. that can also promote decent work conditions for the people in the core team, you know, and for the volunteers. And we did this not only because of my interest and willingness to dedicate full time for native scientists, but also because we believe that education is a long-term commitment and investment, and so we want to be here for the long term. And to be here for the long term, we need to, you know, prepare the organization for that.
You remember that Joanna was saying we count on a huge network of volunteer scientists. You know, for me, I'm in it for the money. You know, because I'm one of the first paid staff here.
Thank you for your sacrifice, Alphonse. But guys, listen, let's just, I mean, this might be a difficult question to answer for both of you. But I'm going to say Portuguese people are probably the most caring people that I've ever met. There is a culture in this country about not leaving anybody behind. We try to bring everybody with. We want to be forward thinking. We want to be ambitious, but we don't want to leave anybody behind. So, I mean, you know, what part of, for you guys being Portuguese, growing up here, contributed to this passion that you both have for trying to help these groups of people that can't necessarily help themselves and giving them these opportunities?
I think that Portuguese people, as I said, I don't think they have a natural inclination to be more to have more solidarity than others, but I think that there's something about the history and historic context of the country that for the specific case of native scientists, I think, as I said, we have a keen sense of diaspora. And so we have this ethos of being a migrant country. And so I think the product of that is that we are keenly aware of the struggles of migrant communities. So that maybe is partly an answer to how to the values of native scientists. But I mean, I think Joanna can answer. This is a very broad answer to that question, and Joanna certainly has a personal question, as she has already revealed.
Well, I would like to pick up on what you said, Alphonse, that I don't think we are more solidary than other cultures. But I do think for us, it's very special. Things around social justice are very, very special. So maybe we feel it differently. And it's I think it's very complex. There's multiple factors contributing for this. And I think, you know, to reduce it to something very simple for me is particularly hard. So yeah, I think I'll leave it like this, and people can build upon this.
Okay, that's okay. For you guys, you both spent some time overseas, you interacting with people from all over Europe. What are some of the things that make you proud of Portugal and proud to be Portuguese? Joanna, you can go first this time.
Proud to be Portuguese. I don't know. It's very very special that we have this trait, right? I have a friend who once told me, she's German, and she said, I love the fact that you are in London, you meet another Portuguese and you go, hello, you're Portuguese. You open your arms wide open and you hug, and it's like you've been friends for all your life. But yet you never met that person before. And she said that for her culture and as a German, when she meets another German in London, because she was also an expat, let's put it this way, she goes, okay, another German. She just, raises her shoulders and drops it, and that's
Shrugs
it.
it off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a sense of connection, right? Here in Portugal, I think we express and show our emotion when we go through things, and that builds connection between people, and we see ourselves and feel ourselves as a group, and so when we are, outside, we immediately feel this connection. We don't prioritize barriers such as where do you actually come from, or the socioeconomic status, or the appearance. We don't prioritize that. We prioritize the fact that that person grew up in Portugal.
Yeah. What about for you, Afonso?
I think it's a very difficult question for me. I was thinking that, I think that what Joanna said is completely true. That's what I meant by we having like a keen sense of diaspora. When we meet other Portuguese abroad, we really make a big fuss. Yeah. But asking me that question, I was thinking about that quote that sociology is trying to understand, is like a fish trying to understand the water it swims in. And like asking me why I'm proud of being Portuguese is tricky because it's my history. It's my main source of experience and way of interpreting the world. Proud of being Portuguese. I'm involved in trying to make Portugal the best version of Portugal it can be. And like as a Portuguese, I'm deeply engaged in that. But beyond that, I don't know really how to answer that question. I have a lot of friends here. I have my family here. And those are all the things that make Portugal special for me. And I think the most that I can say is this. As a Portuguese, I'm engaged in trying to make Portugal a better place. So, and this is more true for Portugal than maybe other places.
Sure.
So, yeah, for me.
Nice. Thank you. Guys, we'll start wrapping it up. One thing that you both would like everybody to take away from our conversation. Just one thing. Afonso, you can go first this time. One thing.
One thing. Okay. Well, that you can, if you identify with the native scientist values, you are welcome to help us through our donate buttons and visit our website and learn more about us. That's it.
Joanna?
My highlight would be that to remember to cater for diversity and inclusion, because it will make our world a better place.
So you see, Joanna is always the class act, and I'm always like for the money, like shameless,
Yeah.
completely.
Well, now I'm gonna give you the opportunity, Afonso. Tell us how people can find you guys online, donate, and help Native Scientists.
So the best way is to go to the Native Scientist website, nativescientist.com, or to visit through our social media pages in Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn.
Thank you. We're going to put links in the show notes so that listeners can get in touch, follow what you guys are doing, and help and donate.
Thank you.
Awesome. Final question, guys. A question that we ask all of our guests. Joanna, you can go first, and then Afonso. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Portugal, the simple life, because it depends on you, and you can decide to live your life in a way that allows you to have a balanced life. And that's it.
Portugal, the simple life. Why? So, can you give me an example of someone? What type of answers do you get? Because I'm not understanding really the thing.
Why do we have a simple life in Portugal?
Why do we have a simple life?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Why do you have to? Oh my God. Question. Because we have a sense of community, like Joanna said. Like I think Portuguese people thrive on that. Yeah, this would be my answer.
Awesome. Joanna and Afonso, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Good luck with the future of Native Scientists, and once again, congratulations. It's a wonderful work that you guys are doing.
Thank you very much, Dylan, for the opportunity, and also for this podcast series, because it's really impressive, the consistency, and also the big people, the big names that you managed to interview.
Well, you guys are added to that, and I think you might be the first UNESCO Prize winners that I've had on the podcast. So there you go. How's that for a scientific stat? But also, let's give a quick shout out to Ricardo Marval, the ultimate connector. Ricardo, if you're listening, thanks for connecting us. And guys, for now, I'm going to let you call it.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
So thank you once again to Joanna and Afonso, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal the Simple Life also has a magazine, so be sure to download the latest edition. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And as we say in Portugal, abraço. Welcome to the Simple Life.